Ambassador Chen Wei walked through the massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber. His shoes made soft clicking sounds on the crystal floor. Above him, the ceiling showed the stars of 1,000 worlds. Around the circular room sat representatives from 847 different species. Some had fur. Some had scales. Some were just clouds of gas inside special containers. All of them were staring at the human. Chen had made this walk many times before. 20 years had passed since the Galactic Council found Earth. 20 years since humanity learned they were not alone in the universe. 20 years of disappointment. He reached the center of the room and stopped. A floating platform appeared beneath his feet and lifted him up so all the council members could see him properly. "Honored Council," Chen began, his voice steady despite his nervousness. "I come once again to request full membership for humanity in the Galactic Council." A sound like grinding rocks filled the chamber. It was laughter from the Vrex Dominion representative. The Vrex looked like huge stone creatures with too many arms. They were the Council's military force, the ones who kept order in the galaxy. "Another request?" the Vrex commander said. His name was Throck, and his voice sounded like an avalanche. "Human, we have explained this many times. Your species is too violent, too primitive. You are not ready." Chen felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his face calm. "We have followed every rule you gave us. We stopped all wars on Earth. We united our world under one government. We have not expanded beyond our own solar system as you commanded. What more do you want?" A bird-like creature from the avian collective spoke next. Her feathers were silver and gold. "Ambassador Chen, please understand. We reviewed your planet's history. In just your last century alone, you had 2 massive wars that killed millions. You created weapons that could destroy your entire world. Your species has spent thousands of years killing each other. That is our past," Chen said, his voice rising slightly. "We have changed. We want to join the community of peaceful species. We want to trade, to learn, to grow." "Denied," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. It belonged to the council chairman, a being of pure energy that existed in multiple dimensions. "Humanity remains on probationary status. You will continue to pay your protection fees. You will submit to our inspections. You will not colonize beyond your home system. Perhaps in another 100 years we will discuss this again." Chen felt something break inside him, but he kept his dignity. He bowed slightly. "The people of Earth will be informed of your decision." As his platform lowered, he heard the whispers. The council members were already moving on to other business, dismissing humanity like they were nothing important. 3 months later, everything got worse. The cargo ship Prosperity was carrying supplies from Earth to the colony on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. 200 families lived there, mining ice and growing food in underground farms. The ship had made this trip hundreds of times before. Captain Maria Torres was eating breakfast when her sensors started screaming. 3 VREX warships had appeared, blocking their path. "Prosperity, shut down your engines," commanded the VREX leader. "Prepare for mandatory inspection." Maria had no choice. The VREX ships were massive, covered in weapons. Her cargo ship had nothing but basic shields. "Complying," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. The VREX soldiers came aboard. They were 3 meters tall and moved through the ship like they owned it. They opened every crate. They examined every computer. They questioned every crew member, sometimes for hours. "This is unnecessary," Maria protested. "Our cargo manifest is completely open. We have nothing to hide." The VREX commander looked down at her. "You humans always complain. Be grateful we protect your primitive species. There are dangerous things in space." The inspection took 16 hours. They found nothing wrong because there was nothing wrong to find. But they took 20% of the cargo anyway. "Protection fees," they said, "for keeping your sector safe." Maria watched them leave with food and medicine that families on Europa desperately needed. She sent a message to Earth reporting what happened. Earth sent a formal protest to the Council. The Council responded 3 weeks later. The VREX were following proper procedure. Humanity must accept our authority. Then came the incident. The transport ship New Dawn was carrying 3,000 people from Earth to Mars. Families, workers, children. They were singing songs and playing games, excited about their new lives on the Red Planet. The ship's captain saw the VREX patrol too late. He signaled that he would stop for inspection, but his message got delayed by a solar flare. Just a few seconds of delay, the VREX didn't wait. They fired. New Dawn exploded in a ball of light and fire. 3,000 lives ended in an instant. Earth demanded justice. They sent every recording, every piece of evidence. They showed that the captain had been complying, that the solar flare caused the communication delay, that this was murder. The Galactic Council met for 3 days. Then they announced their decision. The incident was regrettable but necessary. The vessel failed to respond to Vrex commands in a timely manner. In the interest of galactic security, the Vrex commander acted appropriately. No charges will be filed. Back on Earth, Chen Wei watched the announcement with the rest of humanity. He saw the crowds gathering in every city. He heard the rage in their voices. He felt it in his own heart. The council wasn't finished. 2 weeks later, they announced new restrictions. Earth would face economic sanctions for continued resistance to proper authority. They would blockade the Sol system. Only essential supplies would be allowed through, and only after extensive inspections. Chen stood before the United Earth government and gave his report. They will not listen to reason, he said quietly. They see us as primitive animals that need to be controlled. They will take everything from us slowly until we have nothing left. The president of Earth looked tired. She was young, elected because people thought she could make peace with the aliens. Now she realized the truth. What do you recommend, Ambassador? Chen looked at the faces around the room. Leaders from every nation, every culture, every corner of their world. United for the first time in human history because they had to be. United because aliens had pushed them together. I recommend, Chen said slowly, that we stop begging, and we start preparing. Outside the windows, Earth turned below them. 8 billion humans going about their lives not knowing that everything was about to change, not knowing that the galaxy had made a terrible mistake. They had given humanity a reason to remember what they were good at, and humanity had always been very, very good at war. 2 years passed like a slow nightmare for humanity. The Vrex blockade turned their solar system into a prison. Ships that tried to leave were seized or destroyed. Ships trying to enter were searched for days, their cargo taken as fees. Food shipments to Mars arrived with half the supplies missing. Medicine for the sick disappeared into Vrex storage holds. On Earth, people started going hungry. Not starving, not yet, but the shelves and stores had empty spaces. The Council made sure to send just enough food to keep humans alive. They wanted humanity broken, not dead. A dead species couldn't serve as an example to others who might think about defying the Council. Sarah Okonkwo stood in the command center buried 3 kilometers under the surface of the moon. She was an admiral now, though her fleet consisted of only 73 ships. Old ships that the Council thought were barely functional. Primitive human technology that couldn't possibly threaten anyone. The Council was wrong. Show me the latest reconnaissance data, Sarah said to her tactical officer. Lieutenant Park brought up a holographic display. It showed Vrex patrol patterns, ship movements, and weapon capabilities. Humans had been watching and learning for 2 years. Every inspection gave them more information. Every Vrex ship that came close to their sensors revealed more secrets. They're predictable, Park observed. They use the same patrol routes every cycle. Same formations. Same response times, Sarah nodded slowly. They've been the dominant military force for so long they've forgotten how to be careful. They think overwhelming power is enough, isn't it? Park asked quietly. Only if your enemy fights the way you expect them to, Sarah replied. Deep in the asteroid belt, hidden inside hollowed-out rocks, human engineers worked 20-hour shifts. They weren't building explorer ships or peaceful trading vessels. They were building weapons, pure weapons designed for one purpose only. Dr. James Kowalski floated in zero gravity, examining his latest creation. It was a missile, but not like the Council had ever seen. It used a nuclear reactor to pump X-rays through specially designed focusing crystals. When it detonated near an enemy ship, it would hit them with a beam of radiation powerful enough to cook everything inside the hull in seconds. It's beautiful, he whispered. His assistant looked at him strangely. It's a weapon of mass destruction. It's a tool, James corrected. And we need tools if we're going to survive. On Mars, in the underground cities where 2 million humans lived, children practiced emergency drills. They learned to run to the shelters when the alarm sounded. They learned to be quiet and still, conserving air while they waited for the all-clear signal. They were too young to understand why, but they knew the Vrex were dangerous. Chen Wei, no longer an ambassador but now Secretary of Defense for United Earth, reviewed casualty projections. The numbers were horrifying. If humanity fought the wrecks directly, they might lose billions of people. Earth could be destroyed. Mars could be evacuated and left empty. But the alternative was worse. Slow death by starvation and humiliation. A future where humans were slaves to the Council. Forever locked in their own solar system. Forever treated as primitives who existed only to serve their betters. We didn't start this, he said to himself. We tried peace. We begged for peace. They chose war. Then the Vrex made their final mistake. The civilian station Bright Hope orbited Jupiter. 3,000 people lived there. Farmers, miners, teachers, children. They had nothing to do with Earth's military. They just wanted to live their lives. The Vrex attacked without warning. Commander Throck himself led the raid. His ships surrounded the station and demanded immediate surrender. When the station manager asked what they had done wrong, Throck laughed. You humans need to learn your place, he said. This is a lesson for all of you. He broadcast what happened next to every human settlement in the solar system. Forced everyone to watch. The Vrex soldiers went through Bright Hope section by section. They gathered families together. They made them kneel, and then they executed them one by one, while cameras recorded everything. Men, women, children. It didn't matter. 3,000 people died over 6 hours. When it was done, Throck addressed humanity. This is what happens when you resist. Comply completely or there will be more lessons. Your leaders know how to contact us with your surrender. The transmission ended. For 1 full minute, every human in the solar system stood in shocked silence. Then the silence turned to rage. On Earth, crowds filled every street. They weren't panicking. They weren't crying. They were shouting for war. The United Earth government met an emergency session. The president looked around the room at military leaders, scientists, and diplomats. The Vrex just executed 3,000 civilians, she said quietly. They broadcast it like entertainment. The Council will do nothing to stop them. So I ask you, does anyone here still think we should try to make peace? The room was silent. Then Admiral Okonkwo stood. I have 73 warships ready for combat, she said. Another 160 ships under construction in the belt. We have weapons the Vrex have never seen. We have tactics they can't predict. And we have 8 billion people who are done being afraid. Chen Wei stood next. The Council thinks we're primitive because we spent our history fighting each other. They don't understand that means we're very, very good at fighting. We've had thousands of years to perfect the art of war. They've had thousands of years of peace. The president looked at each person in the room. If we do this, there's no going back. We'll be at war with the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Many of us will die. Maybe all of us will die. We're dying now, someone said. At least this way, we die fighting. The vote was unanimous. Admiral Okonkwo returned to her command center on the moon. She opened a secure channel to every human warship, every hidden base, every secret facility. This is Admiral Okonkwo to all Earth Defense Forces, she said. We have been attacked. Our civilians have been murdered. The galaxy thinks we're weak because we wanted peace. It's time to show them what happens when you push humanity too far. She paused, thinking about all the people who would die and what came next. Then she thought about the 3,000 people on Bright Hope who died begging for mercy they never received. All ships, she commanded. Break the blockade. Show no mercy to any Vrex warship. Make them remember that humans are survivors. Make them remember that Earth breeds warriors. Make them afraid. Across the solar system, human ships came to life. Engines that had been carefully hidden suddenly flared to maximum power. Weapons that were supposedly primitive armed and locked onto targets. Crews that had trained for 2 years in secret moved to battle stations with smooth efficiency. The Vrex blockade fleet detected the movement and laughed. 73 human ships against their 230. It would be a quick fight. They were right about the quick part. The Battle of Saturn's Rings lasted 4 hours and 17 minutes. When it was over, only 12 Vrex ships managed to escape. The rest were debris. Admiral Okonkwo watched the tactical display as the last Vrex ship jumped away, running for its life. Her own fleet had lost 18 ships and 3,000 brave crew members, but they had won. She opened a channel to Earth. Mr. President, Madam Secretary, this is Okonkwo. The blockade is broken. The Sol system is ours again. Back on Earth, Chen Wei stood before the cameras to address not just humanity, but every species in the galaxy. His message would reach the Council within hours. "This is Chen Wei speaking for humanity," he said. His voice was calm but hard as steel. "For 20 years we offered you our hand in friendship. You spit on it. We asked for peace. You gave us war. We begged for mercy. You gave us death." He leaned forward, staring into the camera. "Now you send ambassadors to negotiate. Now you offer us deals. Now you want to talk about peace." He shook his head slowly. "We decline. We decline your surrender. We decline your negotiations. We decline everything you offer. You should have accepted our hand when we offered it in peace." His voice dropped to a whisper that somehow sounded more dangerous than shouting. "Now you'll face our fist." News of the Battle of Saturn's rings spread across the galaxy within days. Species that had never heard of humanity suddenly knew their name. The Vrex, who had policed the galaxy for 3,000 years, had lost 200 ships to a species they called primitive. The Galactic Council held an emergency session. Representatives argued and shouted at each other. Some demanded immediate retaliation against Earth. Others suggested caution. A few, very quietly, wondered if maybe the Council had made a mistake. Commander Throck stood before them, his stone-like body scarred from where he had barely escaped the battle. This was a lucky strike, he insisted. The humans used surprise and treachery. In a fair fight, we would crush them. "Then why?" asked the avian representative carefully. "Did 12 of your ships run away?" Throck had no good answer. But humanity didn't wait for the Council to make their next move. Admiral Okonkwo had learned an important lesson from human history. When you're fighting someone bigger than you, never give them time to recover. Hit them again and again until they can't hit back. The human fleet split into small groups. Fast attack squadrons that could jump in, strike hard, and jump out before reinforcements arrived. They didn't target civilian populations. They didn't destroy homes or murder families. They went after Vrex military bases, supply depots, and patrol fleets. The Vrex base on Kepler 442b was a fortress, thick shields, heavy weapons, and a garrison of 5,000 Vrex soldiers. It had stood for 800 years, controlling an entire sector of space. It took the humans 3 hours to destroy it. Captain Maria Torres, promoted after surviving multiple Vrex inspections, commanded the attack squadron. Her ships came out of their jump already firing. Kinetic kill vehicles traveling at 80% of light speed hit the base's shields like the hammer of an angry god. The shields held for exactly 47 seconds. Nuclear-pumped X-ray lasers burned through the base's armor. Antimatter torpedoes turned entire sections into expanding clouds of particles. The Vrex tried to fight back, but their weapons were designed for ship-to-ship combat, not for dealing with fast-moving attackers that refused to stay still. Before the Vrex could even send a distress signal, Maria's squadron was gone, jumping to their next target. "Targets destroyed," her tactical officer reported. "No civilian casualties detected." Maria nodded. "Those were their orders. Hit military targets only. Give evacuation warnings when possible. Show the galaxy that humans could be precise, controlled, and deadly all at the same time. Show them that humanity's violence could be pointed like a surgical laser instead of sprayed around like the Vrex's brutal tactics." The Council watched in growing horror as red markers appeared on their strategic maps. Vrex bases going dark, supply lines being cut, patrol fleets disappearing. The humans were everywhere and nowhere, hitting targets across 1,000 light-years of space. "How are they moving so fast?" demanded the chairman. "Their ships were supposed to be slow." Dr. James Kowalski could have answered that question. Human ships didn't carry the luxuries that Council vessels had. No gardens, no recreational facilities, no comfortable quarters. Every bit of space was dedicated to engines, weapons, and life support. Human crews lived in cramped conditions, ate basic rations, and didn't complain because they understood what was at stake. Council ships were built for exploration and trade, with weapons added as an afterthought. Human warships were built for killing and nothing else. The difference showed in every battle. The Vrex fleet at Alpha Centauri thought they had humans trapped. 20 Virex cruisers surrounded 8 human destroyers. The Vrex commander demanded surrender. The human response was a single word: no. What happened next became legend in the human fleet. The 8 destroyers didn't try to run. They accelerated directly at the Vrex formation, weapons blazing. Swarms of smart missiles launched from every tube. Each missile had a simple AI programmed with one goal: find a target and hit it as hard as possible. The Virex shot down hundreds of missiles, but thousands got through. The missiles didn't even try to avoid point defense. They just kept coming, wave after wave, until the VREX guns overheated or ran out of ammunition. Then the human ships got close. And close-range combat was where humans had spent thousands of years perfecting their skills. Railguns fired metal slugs at hypersonic speeds. Chemical lasers burned through armor. Nuclear warheads detonated at distances measured in meters. When the battle ended, all 8 human ships were damaged. 5 were barely functional. But 17 VREX cruisers were debris, and the remaining 3 limped away with their hulls torn open. The surviving human captain sent a message to the fleeing VREX ships. "Tell your council that this is what restraint looks like. We could have used planet killers. We could have gone after your civilian populations. We didn't. But if you push us further, if you force our hand, we will do what is necessary to survive." The message reached the council within hours. They held another emergency session. The chairman's voice resonated through the chamber. "We must negotiate with humanity. This war is costing us too much. We should crush them," Throck roared. "Gather our full military might and destroy Earth itself." "And how many ships will we lose?" asked the avian representative quietly. "They destroyed 200 of yours with 70 ships. How many will they destroy if we send 1,000? 10,000? And what happens to the rest of the galaxy while our forces are busy fighting humans?" That question made everyone pause. The Council's power came from their military strength. If the VREX were tied up fighting humanity, other species might start getting ideas. Species that had been conquered or subjugated centuries ago. Species that paid tribute and followed orders because they had no choice. Species that might see human defiance and think, "Why can't we do that too?" The Council sent ambassadors to Earth. They came in a ship flying flags of truce, broadcasting peaceful intentions on every frequency. They requested a meeting with Earth's leadership. Chen Wei, sitting in his office on Earth, read their message. It was polite, almost apologetic. They wanted to discuss terms. They wanted to find a peaceful solution. They promised to consider Earth's concerns. He deleted the message without responding. The ambassadors tried again, and again, each message more desperate than the last. They offered trade deals. They offered to lift the blockade completely. They offered Earth a seat on the Council as a full member. Everything humanity had asked for 20 years ago. Everything they had begged for. Everything they had been denied. Chen Wei finally responded with a simple statement. "We asked for peace when we were weak and you gave us war. Now we are strong and you ask for peace. The answer is no. We will continue operations until the Council is dismantled and every species is free." The response shocked the galaxy. Humanity didn't want concessions. They didn't want a better deal. They wanted to tear down the entire system. Admiral Okonkwo addressed her fleet commanders during their weekly briefing. The Council thinks this is about revenge. They think we're angry and lashing out. They don't understand that this is about something bigger than Earth. She pulled up a star map showing the entire galaxy. Hundreds of species marked in different colors, many of them marked as Council protectorates, which was a polite word for conquered. There are species out there who have been under the Council's control for thousands of years, she said. Species who never had the chance to say no. Species who never had the strength to fight back. We're fighting for them too, Lieutenant Park spoke up. Admiral, we're receiving a message. It's encrypted, but it's not from Earth. The signal is coming from the Telhari homeworld. The Telhari were a bird-like species, graceful and intelligent. Their world had been beautiful once, covered in floating cities and gardens. Then the Council came and stripped away their independence 300 years ago. Now the Telhari lived as servants and laborers, their civilization broken. Sarah opened the message. It was audio only, and the voice was shaking with fear and hope. Humans, the voice said. We have watched you fight. We have seen you refuse to surrender. We want to help. We have information about Council military installations, coordinates, shield frequencies, everything we've learned while working as their servants. The voice paused, then continued. We cannot fight like you do. We are not warriors, but we can help warriors. Please free us like you freed yourselves. Sarah looked at the message for a long time. Then she looked at her tactical officers. Get me a secure line to Secretary Chen. Tell him we have our first ally. Back on Earth, Chen Wei stared at the Telhari message. This changed everything. If other species started helping humanity, the Council wouldn't just face a military threat. They'd face rebellion from within. He made his decision. Send them this message. he told his communications officer. Tell them we accept their help. Tell them we're not building an empire. We're ending one. And tell them that when this is over, every species will be free to choose their own path. Across the galaxy, the Telhari people received humanity's response. In secret places, in whispered conversations, they began to hope. If humans could defy the Council, maybe they could too. The Council felt their grip on the galaxy starting to slip, and they knew they had to act decisively. Commander Throck volunteered to lead one final attack. He would gather every available Vrex warship and crush humanity once and for all. The Council, desperate and afraid, the message from the Telhari was just the beginning. Within weeks, Admiral Okonkov's communication systems were overwhelmed with secret transmissions from dozens of species. The Kresh, an amphibious people who had been conquered 400 years ago. The Doran, insectoid beings who had been forced to mine rare minerals for the Council. The Yalani, energy beings who had been trapped in containment fields and used as living batteries. All of them had the same message: help us, teach us. Frias Chenwei stood before the United Earth government with reports from 40 different species. The galaxy is ready to explode, he said. The Council's power was built on fear. We broke that fear. Now everyone who has been oppressed for centuries sees that resistance is possible. The president looked worried. If we help them, if we give them weapons and training, we'll be responsible for what happens next. There will be wars, chaos. Millions could die. Millions are already dying, Chenwei replied, slowly, quietly, under the Council's rule. At least this way they die fighting for their freedom instead of serving their masters. The decision was made. Earth would share its military technology with any species that wanted independence, but not as conquerors or rulers, as equals helping equals. Dr. Kowalski found himself teaching physics to Telhari scientists who had been forbidden to study advanced technology. He showed them how to build railguns from basic materials, how to create kinetic weapons that could punch through shields, how to use nuclear reactors not just for power but for weapons. Your people are brilliant, he told them. The Council kept you ignorant because they were afraid of what you could do. Now you'll show them they were right to be afraid. The Telhari engineers worked with desperate intensity. They had centuries of anger to fuel their efforts. Meanwhile, the Council was tearing itself apart from within. The session chambers, once filled with dignified debate, now echoed with shouting and accusations. The avian representative stood before the assembly. I propose we grant full independence to all species currently under Council protection. Before this situation gets worse, absolutely not, roared Commander Throck. That would be surrender. The Vrex have never surrendered in 3,000 years. The Vrex have never faced an enemy like humanity, the avian shot back. And now you've turned them into symbols. Every oppressed species in the galaxy sees humans as heroes and us as villains. We are not villains, the chairman said, his energy form flickering with stress. We brought order to a chaotic galaxy. We ended wars. We protected species from each other. You conquered them, said a new voice. It belonged to the representative from Kelkor, a species that had joined the Council voluntarily centuries ago. I've been reviewing historical records. Many species didn't ask for your protection. You simply arrived, demonstrated overwhelming force, and gave them a choice between submission and destruction. The chamber fell silent. It was the first time a Council member had openly criticized the organization's foundations. That was necessary, the chairman insisted. The galaxy was violent and dangerous. The galaxy is still violent and dangerous, the Kelkor representative replied. The difference is that now the violence comes from us and we call it peace. More voices joined in. Species that had been silent for centuries suddenly found their courage. They didn't support humanity exactly, but they questioned whether the Council's response had been correct, whether the treatment of Earth had been just. The Council was fracturing. Commander Throck watched this with growing rage. To him, the solution was simple. Destroy Earth completely and the rebellion would die with it. He began gathering ships, not just Vrex warships, but vessels from every Council species that still feared humanity more than they hated the Council. 10,000 ships. The largest fleet assembled in galactic history. Enough firepower to crack a planet's crust, enough soldiers to overwhelm any defense. Human intelligence learned about the fleet within days. The Telhari passed along information. The Kresh, who worked in Council shipyards, provided exact ship counts. The Doran, who maintained communication systems, shared battle plans. Admiral Okonkwo studied the data and felt ice in her stomach. 10,000 ships. Earth's entire defensive fleet numbered barely 300 ships, even with the new vessels they'd been building frantically. "We can't win this," Lieutenant Park said quietly. "Not directly." "No," Sarah agreed. "We can't." She stared at the tactical display for a long time. Then she smiled grimly. "But we don't have to win. We just have to make them bleed so badly that it's not worth the cost." She opened a channel to all human ships and bases. "This is Admiral Okonkwo to all Earth Defense Forces. The Vrex are coming with everything they have. They want to make an example of us. They want to show the galaxy that rebellion leads to extinction." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "We're not going to hide. We're not going to run. We're going to show the galaxy what it costs to attack humanity. We're going to make them pay for every kilometer they advance. And if we die knowing that we lived free." The response from her crews was immediate. For Earth, for freedom, for everyone watching. But Sarah had one more card to play. She sent a message to every species that had contacted Earth. Every rebellion that was waiting for the right moment. Every oppressed population that dreamed of freedom. "The Vrex are gathering at their staging grounds near the Vrex home system," the message said. "Every warship they have. Every soldier. Every weapon. While they're busy with us, their occupied territories will be nearly defenseless. If you're going to strike, strike now." Across the galaxy, species that had been planning and preparing in secret saw their chance. The Telhari attacked Council installations on their own world. The Kresh seized the mining facilities that had enslaved them. The Doran shut down the communication networks they had been forced to maintain, cutting off Council coordination. Dozens of rebellions erupted simultaneously. The Council's peacekeeping forces, already stretched thin, found themselves fighting on 100 fronts at once. The Council sent desperate messages to Commander Throck. They needed his fleet to suppress the rebellions. They needed his ships protecting Council space. Throck ignored them. He had one goal: destroy Earth, and the rebellions would collapse without their inspiration. He had 10,000 ships. Nothing could stop him. He was about to find out how wrong he was. On Earth, 8 billion humans prepared for the battle that would decide their fate. Not everyone could fight, but everyone contributed. Factories ran 24 hours producing missiles and armor. Scientists worked on new weapons. Engineers reinforced planetary shields. Even children helped, carrying supplies and supporting the troops. Chen Wei, now an old man, addressed the planet. "Tomorrow the Vrex come. They bring more ships than we can count. They think they can break us. They think we'll surrender when we see their fleet." His voice grew stronger. "They don't understand that we're not fighting for the Council's approval anymore. We're not fighting to join their club. We're fighting for the right to exist as free beings, and that's worth any sacrifice." He looked directly into the camera, to the Vrex and to the Council and to everyone watching across the galaxy. "Understand this. Humanity would rather die free than live as slaves. If you destroy us, you'll have to kill every single one of us. And we'll make you remember this day for the rest of your existence." The message reached Commander Throck as his fleet prepared to jump. He laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "Brave words from a dead species. Begin the attack." 10,000 ships entered hyperspace, heading for Earth. But 800 ships came out of hyperspace near Earth. The Telhari had sent ships. The Kresh had sent ships. The Doran, the Yalani, and a dozen other species had sent what little military force they could spare. Not much compared to the Vrex Armada. But enough to matter. Enough to show humanity they weren't alone. Admiral Okonkwo watched the Allied ships take position around Earth. She opened a channel to their commanders. "You didn't have to come. This isn't your fight," a Telhari captain replied, her voice singing with emotion. "You fought for all of us. You showed us that freedom was possible. Now we fight for you. If humanity falls today, they fall with friends beside them." Sarah felt tears in her eyes, but she blinked them away. There would be time for emotion later. If there was a later, all ships, she commanded. "Battle stations. The Vrex will be here in 4 hours. Make every shot count. Make every sacrifice matter. And if we die today, we die knowing we changed the galaxy forever." The crews responded as one. For Earth, for freedom, for a better galaxy. On the moon, in the command center buried deep underground, tactical displays showed the approaching Vrex fleet. 10,000 contacts moving in perfect formation. Overwhelming force coming to crush a single planet. But Chen Wei, watching those displays, wasn't afraid. He was proud that humanity had never surrendered, proud that they had inspired others to fight, proud that even if Earth burned today, the Council would never recover from what humanity had started. The age of the Council was ending. And the age of freedom, Perk. 10,000 Virex warships appeared in Earth's solar system like a swarm of metal locusts. They filled the space around Mars, so many that their combined shields created a visible glow. Commander Throck stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the blue planet in the distance. "This is the day the galaxy remembers," he announced. "The day the Virex crushed humanity and restored order." His fleet began moving toward Earth in perfect formation. Weapons charged, shields at maximum. They expected the humans to meet them with desperate courage and die gloriously. What they got instead was something far worse. Admiral Okonkov watched the Virex approach and smiled coldly. "They're coming at us like a parade formation. They still don't understand." She opened channels to her fleet and their allies, human ships, Telhari cruisers, Kresh frigates, and vessels from a dozen other species. 800 ships total against 10,000. "This is Okonkov," she said calmly. "Execute Protocol Hornet's Nest." The Allied fleet didn't charge forward to meet the Virex. Instead, they scattered in every direction. Small squadrons broke away, moving at maximum speed. They used Earth's moon, Mars, the asteroid belt, anything for cover. They refused to mass together where the Vrex's superior numbers would crush them. "They're running," a Vrex captain shouted with satisfaction. "No," Throck said slowly. "They're not." The first human strike came from behind the moon. 12 ships appeared, launched 200 missiles each, and disappeared back into cover before the Vrex could respond. The missiles were cheap, simple, and numerous. Vrex point defense shot down most of them, but 3 dozen got through, damaging 6 Vrex cruisers. Before the Vrex could reorganize, another strike came from the asteroid belt, then another from high orbit, then another from behind Mars. Each strike was small, quick, and precise. Each strike damaged a few ships and disappeared before facing retaliation. "Cowards," Throck roared. "Stand and fight." "They are fighting," his tactical officer said quietly. "Just not the way we expected." The Vrex fleet tried to chase the human squadrons, but they were too slow. Their massive formation was designed for overwhelming power, not speed and flexibility. Every time they moved toward one target, attacks came from a different direction. Hours passed. The Vrex had destroyed only 15 Allied ships, but they had taken damage to over 300 of their own. Nothing critical yet, but the cumulative effect was adding up. Shields weakening, armor cracking, crews getting exhausted. "They're bleeding us," Throck realized. "Death by 1,000 cuts." He made a decision. "Split the fleet. Form hunting packs. Track down each human squadron and destroy them individually." It was exactly what Admiral Okonkov wanted him to do. The moment the Vrex fleet divided, human tactics changed. Now instead of scattering, they concentrated. 300 human and allied ships formed up near Jupiter and waited. When 2,000 Vrex ships came after them, the humans didn't run. They set a trap. The Vrex pursued the Allied fleet into Jupiter's radiation belts. The intense radiation didn't bother the Vrex's heavily shielded ships, but it created interference with sensors and communications. Perfect conditions for an ambush. Human ships had been hiding in the radiation zones for hours, their crews enduring brutal conditions while they waited. When the Vrex entered the kill zone, the humans struck from every angle at once. It wasn't a battle. It was a slaughter. At close range, in the chaos of Jupiter's radiation, the Vrex's numerical advantage disappeared. Human railguns punched through shields weakened by radiation. Nuclear missiles detonated close enough to tear hulls apart. Smart mines that had been seeded in the area days ago activated and attached themselves to Vrex ships before exploding. The Telhari ships, smaller and more agile, darted between Vrex cruisers, targeting engines and weapons. The Kresh used boarding pods, sending soldiers onto Vrex ships to disable them from within. Every allied species used tactics suited to their strengths, and the humans had taught them all well. When the Vrex survivors limped out of Jupiter's radiation belts, they had lost 800 ships. The humans and allies had lost 90. Throck stared at his casualty reports in disbelief. How are we losing?" His tactical officer pulled up analysis data. "They've been studying us for years, Commander. They know our tactics, our weapons, our formations. They know how we think." But we know nothing about how they fight because they've never fought like this before. Then we adapt, Throck shouted. We learn. We overcome. Sir, the officer said quietly, we're not trained for this kind of war. The Vrex haven't fought a real military opponent in 1,000 years. We've only ever suppressed rebellions and intimidated weaker species. The humans have been fighting each other for their entire history. They're better at this than we are. Throck wanted to deny it, but he couldn't. The evidence was right there on his displays. The humans were winning. On the second day of the battle, the Vrex tried a new strategy. They would ignore the military forces and go straight for Earth. Destroy the planet, end the war. 5,000 ships pushed directly toward humanity's homeworld. Earth's orbital defenses activated, platforms that had been built in secret, hidden among space debris and inside hollowed-out asteroids. Massive railguns that could fire metal slugs the size of buses, laser arrays powerful enough to cut capital ships in half, missile batteries with nuclear warheads. The Vrex fleet ran into a wall of fire. Down on Earth's surface, 8 billion humans watched the battle in the sky. They saw ships burning and exploding. They saw debris raining down, burning up in the atmosphere. They saw their defenders dying to protect their home, and they saw something else. They saw the Vrex fleet faltering, breaking. Some ships were turning away, their commanders refusing to fly into certain death. Chen Wei watched from the command center, his old hands gripping his chair. He had expected to die today. Expected to watch Earth burn. Instead, he was watching the Vrex break. On the third day, something changed. A message reached Commander Throck from the Galactic Council. Not a suggestion. An order. Throck, withdraw immediately. The rebellions have spread to 40 star systems. Council space is collapsing. We need your fleet to restore order. I am restoring order, Throck shouted back. I'm destroying the source of the rebellions. You're losing. You've wasted 3,000 ships and achieved nothing. Withdraw now or we will remove you from command. Throck looked at his displays. His magnificent fleet of 10,000 had been reduced to 7,000, and those 7,000 were damaged and demoralized. The humans had lost less than 500 ships and were still fighting with terrifying efficiency. He had failed. The Vrex had failed. For the first time in 3,000 years, they had been defeated. Attention all Vrex forces, Throck said, his voice heavy with shame. Withdraw from the Sol system. Return to Council space, but the humans weren't done. As the Vrex fled, Admiral Okonkow's ships pursued. Not to destroy them, but to ensure they left and to send a message. Human ships escorted the retreating Vrex to the edge of the system. Weapons locked on but not firing. Tell your council, Sarah broadcast to the Vrex fleet, that if any of you ever threaten Earth again, we won't just defend ourselves. We'll come for your homeworlds. We'll show you what total war really means. We've been merciful so far. Don't mistake that for weakness. The Vrex jumped away, running for their lives. Across Earth, celebration exploded. Humanity had faced extinction and survived. They had fought the galaxy's greatest military power and won. But Admiral Okonkow and Chen Wei didn't celebrate. They knew this was just the beginning. Within weeks, the Galactic Council sent new ambassadors. Not to threaten, but to beg. The rebellions were tearing the galaxy apart. Dozens of species were fighting for independence. Trade routes were collapsing. The order that the Council had maintained for thousands of years was disappearing. Help us, the ambassadors pleaded. The galaxy is descending into chaos. Your war has destroyed everything. Chen Wei, now truly old and tired, looked at them without sympathy. We didn't start the war. You did. The moment you decided some species deserved freedom and others deserved subjugation. What you're seeing now isn't chaos. It's justice. What do you want? The chairman asked, his energy form dim with exhaustion. Name your terms. The council is dissolved, Chen Wei said flatly. Every species becomes sovereign. No more tribute. No more forced protection. No more empire hiding behind the word peace. There will be wars, the chairman protested. Species will fight each other without us to keep order. Probably, Chen Wei agreed. And when they do, humanity and our allies will respond. We'll defend species that can't defend themselves. We'll stop genocides and prevent massacres. But we won't conquer. We won't build an empire. We'll be what the council should have been. Protectors who actually protect instead of oppress. The council had no choice. They agreed. One by one, the council representatives signed the Treaty of Earth. The Galactic Council was officially dissolved. 847 species became independent. 5 years later, Chenwei stood in what used to be the council chambers. It had been rebuilt as a neutral meeting ground where species could gather to trade, negotiate, and discuss issues peacefully. No rulers, no enforcers, just equals talking to equals. A young Vrex diplomat approached him nervously. The Vrex had been humbled by their defeat, their society transformed by the realization that they weren't invincible. Secretary Chen, the